Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. We will do Surah Yunus and a part of Surah Hud today. With Surah Yunus, we begin with the third group of surahs in the Quran. We've already been introduced to the idea that the Quran, the way it has been arranged by the Almighty, has been divided into 7 surah groups in a way that each group begins with one or more Meccan surahs and ends with one or more Madanin surahs. Each group has its own special focus, emphasis on a particular topic, subject matter. Each group has its own uh, logical sequencing. And in each group, we have, in most of the surahs, surah pairs. So this particular group, the third group, has 15 surahs, 14 of which uh, are in pairs. And the last surah, Surah An-Nur, is a Madanan surah and is a standalone surah. It's not in pairs. Uh, the subject matter of this particular surah is the warning that was given to the people of Mecca and the surroundings, the warning that if they're not going to accept this message of the Almighty that has become absolutely clear to them that it's from Him, if they are going to reject it, they're going to oppose it, um, they will be punished. God's punishment is going to be inflicted upon them, not just in the next life, but in this life as well. Uh, the other subject is the good news that has been given, which is the other side of the coin. Good news to the believers that if they continue to remain steadfast and continue to follow the right path, their group is going to succeed and they will prevail. Along with that subject is the topic of tazkiyah, purification, and tathir, the process of cleansing the group of Muslims uh, within the group, getting rid of those elements that were impure, the hypocrites, etc. So that was also an ongoing process that was taking place. Uh, there is also sometimes a mention here and there of an address, primarily indirectly, for the people of the book, the Jews and the Christians, essentially because they were, even though it's most of the surahs are Meccan surahs, they were trying to encourage and provide moral support to the people of Mecca in their opposition to the message of Islam, the message of the Quran. So they too have been addressed. Uh, so that is the topic of this group. The first two groups that we're going to do, the first two surahs that we're going to do, are forming a pair. Surah Yunus, Surah number 10, and Surah Hud, Surah number 11. So we begin with Surah uh, Yunus first. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم Alif Lam Ra. This is Surah Alif Lam Ra. I've been mentioning about these letters that are not read in order for them to make uh, a word that we pronounce. Instead, they are read separately. So they are disjointed letters, huruf muqattat. They have definitely have meanings. One meaning of all these huruf is actually that they are the name given by the Quran to these surahs. Although the more we are able to uncover the mystery of their meanings, the more we would realize that these letters and their meanings have got something important to do with the subject matter of the surah. So I'm translating Alif Lam Ra as this is Surah Alif Lam Ra. And as we shall see later, Surah Hud also begins with the same letters, thereby confirming that these two surahs they form a pair. Tilka ayatul kitab al hakim. These are the verses of a wise book. These, that is this surah, which is Surah Alif Lam Ra. It's a surah which is a part of a book, which is a wise book. Wisdom is actually the understanding, the appreciation of hidden realities, realities which are there. We do have an understanding of their presence, but they're kind of dormant unless they're pointed out and brought out. So the Quran mentions about wisdom. Uh, the Quran talks about the fact that Al Hikmah is a part of God's religion. And by Al Hikmah, there are clear indications within the Quran that it is meant A, the appreciation of moral principles within us, ethics, um, which is hidden, but it's pretty much clear. The Quran only reminds about it. Likewise, the reality of beliefs, belief in God, belief in life hereafter, they are there, but they're hidden. So they are brought forth, they are made prominent, and their presence, their reality is confirmed. So this book also talks about many other uh, treasures of wisdom that when they are mentioned, you know, person who is sensitive, who is intelligent, who uses his intellect, would always be impressed and would say, "This is something I'm impressed by. This is something I already know." أكان للناس عجبا أن أوحينا إلى رجل منهم. Has it come as a surprise for these people, that is, people of Mecca, that we have sent our revelation إلى رجل منهم upon a person, a human from amongst them, an anzir nas, with the message that he should warn people, وَبَشِّرِ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا, and should give good news to those who believe. So obviously warning is for those who don't believe. أَنَّ لَهُمْ قَدَمَ صِدْقٍ عِنْدَ رَبِّهِمْ. The good news is that they will have a place of honor with their Lord. قَالَ الْكَافِرُونَ. So those who disbelieved, those who rejected this message knowingly, they said, "Inna haza sahirun mubin." This man is clear magician. So this verse is setting the tone. It's actually describing that it's a warning and a good news. And the reason why the kuffar used to mention this about the Prophet that he was a magician because the kind of influence that he had on the minds of people was so profound, so strong that you know they had to come up with some explanation. I mean, um, those who were the leaders of Quraysh, they've they found that their following is getting affected by this message. So I mean, they had to come up with some counter narrative, and what they said was that this is magic. That is what politicians do. And these kuffar were obviously politicians. Their uh, rule was at stake, and they had to come up with something to satisfy their crowd, their followers. Verse 4 says, "Ilayhi marji'ukum jamia." This is the message of the Quran. This is what the Quran wants to tell everybody. "Ilayhi marji'ukum jamia." To him, to your Lord, you are going to return, jami'an, all of you. Wa'adallahi haqqa. This is God's true promise. Innahu yabda'ul khalqa thumma yuridu. He is the one who begins the process, and he is the one who is going to repeat it. This is a very simple, a very profound, a simple yet profound response of the Quran to many questions, criticisms that were raised by the kuffar and still raised by people now. You know, how would it be possible for people, for humans, to come back to life after they would be dead? You know, there'll be no more of their existence body available. Uh, the flesh would be gone, the blood would be gone, the bones would get just disintegrated. How would they come back? And the Quran makes this very simple statement. Innahu yabda'ul khalq. He begins the process of creation. So mayuidu. And then he's going to repeat it. So what is the problem in understanding it? The one who created it for the first time, why would it be difficult to do it again, for him to do it again? Why is he going to do it? لِيَجْزِيَ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ بِالْقِسْطِ, so that he should reward, compensate those who believe and do good deeds بالقسط, in a just way. That's why there's going to be a next life, to reward the good performance of good people. However, it would not be enough for this reward to be complete unless there is this punishment for those who were cruel, unscrupulous. So their punishment is actually the result, consequence of the decision that good people are going to be rewarded. So وَالَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا لَهُمْ شَرَابٌ مِّنْ حَمِيمٍ, and those who were who continued to reject, who were not inclined to believe because of their evil nature, for them is going to be boiling water, وَعَذَابٌ أَلِيمٌ, and a severe punishment, بِمَا كَانُوا يَكْفُرُونَ, because of the fact that they rejected the truth, rejected it knowingly. Then we move on to verses 13 onwards, where the Almighty says, وَلَقَدْ أَهْلَكْنَا الْقُرُونَ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ لَمَّا ظَلَمُوا. Look here, what we are promising, we are warning you against, is not something that's going to happen for the first time. وَلَقَدْ أَهْلَكْنَا الْقُرُونَ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ. We destroyed nations before you as well. لَمَّا ظَلَمُوا, when they were unjust. Zulm is doing wrong uh, of a nature wherein what is due for someone is not given to him. So you deprive the person of his legitimate right, and you're doing zulm. And the Quran tells us that the biggest zulm, the biggest injustice is to associate partners with God. Because the biggest reality of this whole existence, creation, is that there's only one God who created and who is sustaining, who designed. And there are people are out there who, for no justification whatsoever, they start ascribing partners with him. So when they indulged in zulm, in injustice, they were punished. وَجَاءَتْهُمْ رُسُلُهُمْ بِالْبَيِّنَاتِ, and there came to them their messengers with clear signs, clear evidences of the fact that what they were delivering was true. فَمَا كَانُوا لِيُؤْمِنُوا, but they would not believe. كَذَلِكَ نَجْزِي الْقَوْمَ الْمُجْرِمِينَ, that is how we uh, punish, we compensate, recompense the criminal people. So people who reject are criminals. That's what the Quran is very clear about. It's not possible for a good-natured, good person, a truth-seeking person, to belong to the category of kuffar. If that is apparently happening, either the person is not genuinely good, there's something wrong with him, you don't know, or the message has not been presented to him properly. So obviously, if it's not presented properly, why would the person believe? I mean, there are excuses then for him to present. ثُمَّ جَعَلْنَاكُمْ خَلَائِفَ فِي الْأَرْضِ, then we made you, O people, or the addressees, the successors in the land. They were wiped off, and now you have been given the opportunity, min ba'dihim, after them. You know why? لِنَنْظُرَ كَيْفَ تَعْمَلُونَ, so that we see how you will perform. After this, we go to verse 15, the next verse. It says, وَإِذَا تُتْلَى عَلَيْهِمْ آيَاتُنَا بَيِّنَاتٍ, when our verses, clear verses, are recited before them, قَالَ الَّذِينَ لَا يَرْجُونَ لِقَاءَنَا, those who have no hope, those who are not looking forward to meeting us, they say, ائْتِ بِقُرْآنٍ غَيْرِ هَذَا وَبَدِّلْهُ, bring a Quran other than this Quran, or change it, alter it. Then we are going to believe. This Quran is not acceptable to us. It's uncompromising. It speaks against our gods, the religion of our forefathers. So this Quran is not acceptable. Make changes in it, bring a new one, and we might consider. قُلْ مَا يَكُونُ لِي أَنْ أُبَدِّلَهُ مِنْ تِلْقَاءِ نَفْسِي, tell them that it's not for me to change it through my own desires. I can't. It's in attabi'u illa ma yuha ilayya. I myself am bound to follow what has been revealed to me. Inni akhafu in asaitu. I have a fear, I have an apprehension that if I'm going to be disobedient, I'm going to go against it. Azaba yawmin azim. If I'm disobedient to my Lord, I fear the punishment of a big day. Qul, tell them, Law sha'Allahu, had God willed, ma talawtuhu alaykum, I would not have recited this Quran to you, wala adrakum bihi, nor would he have informed you about it, nor would God have informed you about it. فَقَدْ لَبِثْتُ فِيكُمْ عُمْرًا مِّن قَبْلِهِ, so I have lived with you for a lifetime before the revelation of this book. أَفَلَا تَعْقِلُونَ, do you not think, do you not ponder? Don't you use your reasoning? The idea is that the Prophet, may Allah's mercy be on him, is saying that, don't you know that I have been all along a reliable person, never cheated, bluffed anyone. You're the ones who gave me the title of As-Sadiq, the truthful, Al-Amin, the trustworthy. You know that all along, all throughout these 40 years that I've spent right in front of your eyes. I've never been interested in making presentations, literary presentations, no interest in poetry. I've never been an orator. And all of a sudden, I'm coming up with a message telling people that it's from God. And you are suspecting. Don't you know me? Don't you don't you use your reason? That's the evidence of the character, the personality of the Prophet, which was one of the most effective arguments in support of the Quran, that it's from God. Then we move on to verse 24, wherein the Almighty is telling people, these people, that, the reason why they are not inclined to accept the Quran is that they are so overly indulged in the pleasures of this life that they don't have time and they're not interested in thinking about anything other than this life. So the Almighty says, إِنَّمَا مَثَلُ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا. The example of this worldly life is like كَمَاءٍ أَنزَلْنَاهُ مِنَ السَّمَاءِ, like rain, which we sent from the sky. فَاخْتَلَطَ بِهِ نَبَاتُ الْأَرْضِ. And then the plants of the earth, they sprout, come out. مِمَّا يَأْكُلُ النَّاسُ وَالْأَنْعَامُ, which both men, humans, and their animals, their livestock, they eat. حَتَّى إِذَا أَخَذَتِ الْأَرْضُ زُخْرُفَهَا وَزَيَّنَتْ. Until when the earth, this land, is uh, taken on with adornment, it becomes beautiful. You look at it and you see that it's beautified. What happens is, وَظَنَّ أَهْلُهَا أَنَّهُمْ قَادِرُونَ عَلَيْهَا. And the people, inhabitants of the land, they get a feeling that they have got full control over it. Everything is under their command, their control. Ataha amruna laylan aw nahara. Happens is that there comes our command either at night or during the day. فَجَعَلْنَاهَا حَسِيدًا كَأَن لَّمْ تَغْنَ بِالْأَمْسِ. So we make it as like a harvest. It's destroyed through a hurricane, through a storm, or some other calamity, as if it had never existed. كَذَلِكَ نُفَصِّلُ الْآيَاتِ. That is how we explain our verses, لِقَوْمٍ يَتَفَكَّرُونَ, for the people who think, who are using their intellect. The idea is that, this life, howsoever attractive it might look to you, it's temporary. It's going to come to an end. And it might come to an end all of a sudden. You may not be even expecting it. That's how this worldly life is, temporary, unreliable, and you are pinning all your hopes on this life. And as a consequence, you are rejecting God's message. This is not a good decision that you're taking. Then we move on to verse 40, where the Almighty says, وَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ يُؤْمِنُ بِهِ وَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ لَا يُؤْمِنُ بِهِ. And from amongst them, there are those who believe in it, and there are those who don't believe in it. That is, this life, because it's a test, the Almighty has allowed everyone the liberty to choose. All humans have been provided with freedom. And this is because this life is a test. Nobody is being forced. There are people who use this freedom judiciously, positively, and they believe. And there are those who go after their desires, their ego, their worldly temptations beyond reasonable, acceptable limits, and they don't believe. So you can see from what's happening, there are different responses, and let it not be a surprise. People don't believe because to them, the worldly temptations are more important. وَرَبُّكَ أَعْلَمُ بِالْمُفْسِدِينَ. And your Lord knows well who are the people who cause corruption, mischief on earth, who are the evil people, thereby clarifying that it's only the evil people who do not believe. God knows who is doing what kind of a person a certain individual is, and it is on the basis of the quality of their performance vis-a-vis ethics, morality, that a decision is taken as to whether a person is going to believe or not. And obviously, this is applicable directly to the times when the prophets, messengers are there. The times when they are not there, then only God can decide on the day of judgment as to who would deserve to be punished and who will not be, because the information, the knowledge, the presentation is not perfect. And therefore, some people who, despite being good, if they don't accept, they may have an excuse. We move on to verse 47. It says, وَلِكُلِّ أُمَّةٍ رَسُولٌ. The policy of the Almighty regarding messengers has been mentioned in a very brief but comprehensive way. Every nation had a messenger. فَإِذَا جَاءَ رَسُولُهُمْ. So when their messenger came to them, قُضِيَ بَيْنَهُمْ بِالْقِسْطِ. Whenever he would come, their matter is going to be judged بالقسط, with justice. So every nation that receives a messenger, their matter is judged in this life, and it's done justly, fairly. فَهُمْ لَا يُظْلَمُونَ. And they're not wronged. So that's what is happening to you as well. Our messages come to you, and it's your turn now. So it all depends on your performance. And this message that has come to you, it's mentioned in verse 57. Ya ayyuhan nas, O people, qad ja'atkum maw'izatum min rabbikum. There has come to you an instruction from your Lord. Wa shifa'un lima fis sudur. And it's a cure, it's a healing for what is in the hearts. وَهُدًى وَرَحْمَةٌ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ. And it is a guidance and a mercy for believers. It is a healing, it is a cure for what is in the hearts. Sometimes the Quran doesn't mention that it's a cure for what lies in the hearts. That is, it's a cure for the, all the spiritual diseases of hatred, of jealousy, of overindulgence in worldly life, etc. Evil thoughts, evil desires. It's a cure for that. But sometimes the Quran just mentions that it's shifa. That's the style of Quranic presentation. That when something has already been explained, there is a brief expression used to refer to it. Uh, you know, hoping that people who are reading carefully, and therefore they would know what's being said. Unfortunately, many a times people don't understand what's being said. And therefore, what we find is that there are many Muslims who believe that Quran says that the Quran is shifa. It's a cure. And they then start mentioning the merits of the Quran regarding the promise that it has to cure diseases, heart diseases, cancer, etc. That's not the case. That's not what the Quran has come to do. The Quran has come to guide and guide towards the right path, the path of morality, the path of God's guidance that He has sent down. Uh, that doesn't really mean that uh, I'm trying to deny the reality that the Quranic verses cannot cure. They might, who knows? But that's not what the Quran has come to do. That is not what the Quran claims. That is not what these verses mean. I mean, if somebody is cured by the listening to the recitation of Surah Rahman, cured from his or her cancer, alhamdulillah, this could be an additional bonus advantage of the Quran. But that's not what the Quran has come to do. And by the way, you give this message to people, and there are some people who get cured and others don't get cured. What is going to be their response, their understanding to the Quran? That the Quran has not done what it was expected to do. Not at all. That's not what the purpose of the Quran is. So the next verse, 58 says, قُلْ بِفَضْلِ اللَّهِ. Tell them it is through the bounty of God, وَبِرَحْمَتِهِ, and His mercy, that we have got it. It's His sheer kindness that He has given us the Quran. فَبِذَلِكَ فَلْيَفْرَحُوا. So, because of this, let them rejoice. This is something that we need to be thankful and to feel good about it. Rejoice it. وَخَيْرٌ مِمَّا يَجْمَعُونَ. It's far better than what they are collecting, amassing. That is the kind of obsession that they have for worldly obsession, worldly possessions, which is causing them to not take the Quran seriously. This Quran is far better than those possessions. Then we move on to verse 71, which begins to talk about the story of Noah alayhi salam, Noah. وَاتْلُ عَلَيْهِمْ نَبَأَ نُوحٍ, and recite to them the news of Noah. إِذْ قَالَ لِقَوْمِهِ, it's the time when he said to his nation. So, after having given evidences and arguments which had to do with human nature and the nature around us, the Quran is now giving the evidences of history that those people who do not accept God's message, they are then taken to task. إِذْ قَالَ لِقَوْمِهِ, when he, Noah, said to his nation, Ya qawm, O my people, O my nation, in kana kabura alaykum maqami wa tazkiri. If my standing before you and reminding you of the ayatillah, the verses and the signs of God, they are causing problem. They are a source of trouble for you. Then, فَعَلَى اللَّهِ تَوَكَّلْتُ, I put my trust on God. I trust Him. فَأَجْمِعُوا أَمْرَكُمْ وَشُرَكَاءَكُمْ. You resolve your plan and call for help from the partners that you associate with God. Do whatever you want to do against me. ثُمَّ لَا يَكُنْ أَمْرُكُمْ عَلَيْكُمْ غُمَّةً. Then let not your plan be unclear to you. Do it clearly. No. Take an action against me. ثُمَّ اقْضُوا إِلَيَّ. And carry it out upon me. وَلَا تُنْزِرُونَ. And don't give me respite. That is, do whatever you want to. You'll not be able to harm me. I'm telling you that I'm from God, and this message is from Him. فَإِن تَوَلَّيْتُمْ. But then, if you turn away, فَمَا سَأَلْتُكُمْ مِنْ أَجْرٍ. I'm not asking you for any reward, any compensation. I'm giving you the message. In ajriya illa ala Allah. My reward is only with God. وَأُمِرْتُ أَنْ أَكُونَ مِنَ الْمُسْلِمِينَ. And I am I have been commanded that I be amongst those who are Muslims, who have surrendered themselves before the Almighty. فَكَذَّبُوهُ. So what happened? They rejected the message, denied the truthfulness of Noah. فَنَجَّيْنَاهُ. So we rescued him, وَمَن مَّعَهُ, and those who were with him, fil fulk, in the ship. فَجَعَلْنَاهُمْ خَلَائِفَ. And we made them successors. That is, they were the ones who lived on. وَأَغْرَقْنَا الَّذِينَ كَذَّبُوا بِآيَاتِنَا. And we drowned those people who rejected, denied the truthfulness of our verses. Fanzur, so see, كَيْفَ كَانَ عَاقِبَةُ الْمُنذَرِينَ. How was the end of those who were warned? Learn from their examples and mend your ways before it's too late. Then we move to verse 90. So it's a mention of many messengers, and then we are informed about the same mission that was accomplished, undertaken by Musa alayhi salam, Moses. He delivered the message, and then after a certain while, he and the children of Israel, his followers, they left the place, they left Egypt, and they were rescued by the Almighty by enabling them to go past the sea. وَجَاوَزْنَا بِبَنِي إِسْرَائِيلَ الْبَحْرَ. And we took the children of Israel across the sea. فَأَتْبَعَهُمْ فِرْعَوْنُ وَجُنُودُهُ. And Pharaoh and his soldiers, they pursued them, followed them. بَغْيًا وَعَدْوًا. And they did it enmity and arrogance. حَتَّى إِذَا أَدْرَكَهُ الْغَرَقُ. Until such time that he was about to be drowned. That is Pharaoh, Pharaoh. Allah, he said, Amantu annahu la ilaha illa allazi amanat bihi banu Israel. I gave a testimony to the fact that there is no deity, no God except the God in whom the children of Israel believe. Wa ana min al-Muslimin. And I am now surrendering. I am amongst those who are Muslims. Al-an. The response was, is it now that you're doing it? وَقَدْ أَسَيْتَ. Even though you disobeyed قبل, before. وَكُنْتَ مِنَ الْمُفْسِدِينَ. And you were among those who caused mischief on earth. You were absolutely unjust, tyrant. The rule is that your tawbah repentance, if it's sincere, is going to be accepted anytime before death reaches you in a way that you can see it, because it's at that time when it is as if whistle has been blown, the game is over. So when you are playing a game, football, hockey, or any other, and the referee blows the whistle, you can't score goals anymore. So it was all over for him. So God said to him in verse 92, فَالْيَوْمَ نُنَجِّيكَ بِبَدَنِكَ. Today I am going to save you, that is, save your body, لِتَكُونَ لِمَنْ خَلْفَكَ آيَةً, so that you become a sign for the people to come. وَإِنَّ كَثِيرًا مِنَ النَّاسِ. And most certainly, many people, many amongst humans, عَنْ آيَاتِنَا لَغَافِلُونَ. They are heedless to our signs. That is, the Almighty promised that unlike in the case of other humans, the body of Pharaoh is not going to be allowed to disintegrate. It's going to remain intact. And that is how it happened. So it's one of those wonderful, amazing things about the Quran that 1400 plus years ago, the Quran made a statement which has come true now. It was only 100 plus years ago that the mummified body of Pharaoh was discovered and now placed in the Museum of Cairo really is an evidence of the confirmation of what the Quran said that it was true, even though there was no way anybody could have known this reality at the time when the Quran was being revealed. Then we go to verse 100 of this surah, which is another wonderful uh, statement that we come across. The Almighty says, وَمَا كَانَ لِنَفْسٍ أَن تُؤْمِنَ. It is not possible for any human to believe إِلَّا بِإِذْنِ اللَّهِ, except by the will of God. You can only believe if God permits you to believe. The next statement says, وَيَجْعَلُ الرِّجْسَ عَلَى الَّذِينَ لَا يَعْقِلُونَ. And he casts, places filth upon those who don't use their intellect, who don't reason. That is, the decision of belief is taken by Allah, by the Creator. Belief comes here. You can't get it. You can try it, but you won't get it without God's permission. And God does not permit those people to believe who are dirty, filthy from inside. This dirt and filth is the filth of immorality. And this happens because people don't use their intellect properly. So here the Almighty has mentioned two important conditions for true proper belief. Proper use of intellect and morally upright behavior. Then we move on to the end part of the surah where the Almighty says, 108 verse, قُلْ يَا أَيُّهَا النَّاسِ. Say, O people, قَدْ جَاءَكُمُ الْحَقُّ. The truth has come to you. مِنْ رَبِّكُمْ, from your Lord. فَمَنِ اهْتَدَى. So whoever chooses to be guided, فَإِنَّمَا يَهْتَدِي لِنَفْسِهِ. He's going to get guided for his own benefit. فَمَنْ ضَلَّ. And the one who is going to be misguided, فَإِنَّمَا يَضِلُّ عَلَيْهَا. His misguidance is going to go against him alone. فَمَا أَنَا عَلَيْكُمْ بِوَكِيلٍ. And I am not an administrator, manager over your affairs. The Prophet is saying that I'm not going to do it for you. You have to do it on your own. وَاتَّبِعْ مَا يُوحَى إِلَيْكَ. And O Prophet, you follow what has been revealed to you. وَاصْبِرْ. And be patient, steadfast. حَتَّى يَحْكُمَ اللَّهُ. Until God's decision arrives. That is the decision against them of his punishment. Before that, patiently wait for it. وَهُوَ خَيْرُ الْحَاكِمِينَ. And he is the best of the judges. After that, we have its partner surah, Surah Hud, which is surah number 11. And as I said earlier, not surprisingly, it also begins with Alif Lam Ra. It's the name of Surah Yunus as well as Surah Ra. Kitabun Uhkimat Ayatuhu says it's a book whose verses have been made brief and comprehensive, thumma fussilat, and then they have been clarified in detail. Min ladun hakimin khabir, from the one who is wise and fully aware. That is, it is the style of presentation of the Quran that we have its verses to begin with mentioning the Almighty's principles, his expectations, his policies in brief. And then the same brief presentation is explained. That enables the reader, if he or she is doing it properly, to get a full grip on the subjects the Quran is touching upon. A brief message is important because you need to have the understanding sometimes in a nutshell. You can memorize it, you can repeat it. But then obviously it needs to be explained as well. Brief presentation raises questions. What exactly are the details? So after you are wondering what the details are, those details come from God. You get it. It really is something that enables you to feel confident, clear, and satisfied. That's what the Almighty has done in his presentation of the Quran. And he says that this book is telling you one thing more than any other. Allah ta'budu illallah. That you're not going to worship anyone other than God. Innani lakum minhu nazirun wa bashir. I have come, I am from his side a nazir. I have come for warning you, a warner and a bashir. And I'm the one who is giving good tidings, one who gives good news. So that's what this book is all about. Uh, then we move on to verse 8 of Surah Hud, where the Almighty says, وَلَئِنْ أَخَّرْنَا عَنْهُمُ الْعَذَابِ. And when we delay the punishment for them, إِلَى أُمَّةٍ مَعْدُودَةٍ, for a limited time, when we hold it back, لَيَقُولُنَّ مَا يَحْبِسُ. They would certainly say, what has kept it away from us? Why are we not getting punished? Allah, beware. Yawma ya'tihim. When it will come to them, the punishment will come to them. Laysa masrufan anhum. There's nothing that is going to be able to turn it away from them, avert it for them. Wahaqa bihim ma kanu bihi yastahzi'un. And what they are ridiculing, that is the information about punishment, it's going to overwhelm them, envelop them. They're going to be taken over by that punishment. Now, when they are being warned, they're making fun of it. But when it's going to come, the same reality that was made fun of is going to overtake them. We move on to verse 17 of this surah, which is mentioning Afaman kana ala bayyinatin min rabbih. Look here, the one who was at a clear evidence from his Lord. وَيَتْلُوهُ شَاهِدٌ مِّنْهُ. And then a witness from him follows it. وَمِنْ قَبْلِهِ كِتَابُ مُوسَى إِمَامٌ وَرَحْمَةٌ. And before him, or before it, if it refers to the Prophet or the Quran, there was the book of Musa, which was a leader and source of mercy. Now, what the Quran is saying is that, our Prophet is a clear evidence. His good nature is in itself an evidence that he cannot dodge you. He is your well-wisher. And this good nature is then supported by the evidence of some people from amongst the people of the book. They have confirmed that indeed what he is saying is right. We know from our books. And you know that this kind of message comes to people every now and then. There was this message of Moses that came from God, and it was a message of the book that led people towards the right path, and it was a message of mercy. أُولَٰئِكَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِهِ. They, people of the book, the good people of the book, they are believing in it as well. So why are you rejecting it? وَمَنْ يَكْفُرْ بِهِ. And whoever rejects it, min al-ahzab, from amongst those who belong to the people of the book, the earlier people, then pannaru maw'idu. For them, punishment of fire is the promise. فَلَا تَكُوا فِي مِرْيَةٍ مِّنْهُ. So don't be in any doubt about it. That is, about the veracity of this message, about the fact that there's going to be another life. إِنَّهُ الْحَقُّ مِنْ رَبِّكَ. It is indeed the truth from your Lord. وَلَكِنَّ أَكْثَرَ النَّاسِ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ. But most people, they don't believe. This is verse 17. And then we move on to verse 25, where the Almighty is saying that the earlier prophets who came, their history is again a testimony of the reality that what we are saying is true. Surah Hud is a surah which talks about the stories of all those 6 prophets, 6 messengers that have been mentioned in the Quran over and over again to present this clear understanding that whenever a messenger comes with the message of the Almighty and the message is rejected by the nation, their punishment is what visits them in this very life. For them, it's not the life hereafter that is going to wait for them to be punished. In this very life, such people are made the example for others to learn from. So the Quran has mentioned those 6 messengers: Nuh, Hud, Saleh, Lut, Shuaib, and Musa. These are the 6 messengers. And their stories have been mentioned in Surah Al-Araf, in Surah Hud, in Surah Shu'ara, and Surah Al-Qamar, which doesn't talk about one messenger, Shuaib. But these 4 surahs are not the only surahs. The entire Quran talks about these messengers, their stories, and their end, the punishments that these nations received. Sometimes only one messenger's story is mentioned in the Quran. And the idea is very clear that people get reminded by the mention of these stories over and over again that what we are telling you about is absolutely true. You are not going to be spared. This is God's message. It is not the first time that it has come, and you will have to take it seriously, or else your case is going to be decided in this very life. So in Surah Hud, we see, starting from Nuh alayhi salam, وَلَقَدْ أَرْسَلْنَا نُوحًا إِلَىٰ قَوْمِهِ إِنِّي لَكُمْ نَذِيرٌ مُبِينٌ. And we had certainly sent Noah to his nation, saying, Inni lakum nazirun mubin, I am indeed a clear warner. That is, I have come to you with a warning which is clear, which is convincing. We've not kept anything away in mentioning to you that it's bound to happen. Allah ta'budu illallah. And the message to you is simple. Do not worship anyone except God. This is the most significant part of the expectation of the Almighty. He is one and the only. He is the one who deserves to be worshipped. Nobody else except him is to be worshipped. Inni akhafu alaykum azaba yawmin alim. And I fear for you a punishment of a day which is going to be painful. That is, if you're not going to pay heed to what I'm saying and will continue to indulge in rejecting the message for the reasons that have been mentioned over and over again, because of their evil deeds, because of their overindulgence in worldly obsessions, worldly possessions, And because of their ego, the arrogance, uh, you will be punished. فقال الملأ الذين كفروا من قومه. So those who were chiefs of that nation, and they rejected the truth from his nation, the nation of Noah. They said, "Ma naraka illa basharam mithlana." We see you only as a human like us. What is there? What is there special about you? You're just like us. وَمَا نَرَاكَ اتَّبَعَكَ إِلَّا الَّذِينَ هُمْ أَرَاذِلُنَا بَادِيَ الرَّأْيِ. And we do not see the people who are around you, your companions who have believed in you, except those who belong to the lower classes. They are not very prominent. So they're just there because they've not used their understanding. They've listened to you and have been pulled by your charisma. That's it. They've got no intellect. They don't have depth. So that's what is happening. وَمَا نَرَى لَكُمْ عَلَيْنَا مِنْ فَضْلٍ. We don't see any superiority in you over us. بَلْ نَظُنُّكُمْ كَاذِبِينَ. Instead, we see you um, as people who are liars. You've come with a message which you've concocted yourself. They were given this response that, look here, أَلَا يَا قَوْمِ أَرَيْتُمْ إِن كُنْتُ عَلَى بَيِّنَةٍ مِّن رَبِّي. Don't you see that if I have come with clear signs from my Lord, وَآتَانِي رَحْمَةً مِّنْ عِنْدِهِ, and he gave me his mercy from himself, close to him. That is, I have come with clear signs as a person you trust, you always relied upon because of the way I behaved with you. So that in itself was an evidence. And then came his mercy in the form of divine revelation. فَأُمِّيَتْ عَلَيْكُمْ, and you've been blinded from it. You've not been able to understand it. So, أَنُلْزِمُكُمُوهَا وَأَنْتُمْ لَهَا كَارِهُونَ. Can I force it upon you when you are reluctant? How can I do it? وَيَا قَوْمِ لَا أَسْأَلُكُمْ عَلَيْهِ مَالًا. Oh my people, I'm not asking from you any reward, any wealth. In ajriya illa ala Allah. My reward is only with God. وَمَا أَنَا بِطَارِدِ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا. And I'm not going to abandon those people who have believed. They are my companions. إِنَّهُمْ مُلَاقُو رَبِّهِمْ. They're going to meet their Lord. وَلَكِنِّي أَرَاكُمْ قَوْمًا تَجْهَلُونَ. I see you as people who are arrogant. It is because of your arrogance that you've reached this point. And the end result is that you are now going to face calamity. And that calamity befell that nation. The later part of this story mentions that they continue to make fun of Noah and his companions. Noah was instructed by the Almighty to make a ship. There came a flood. They all drowned. Only those who were with Noah, they were rescued. That's the story that has been mentioned. And the people of Mecca are being warned that they should stay away from denying the message, or else they will meet with the same fate. May the Almighty enable us to understand the Quran properly and follow it to the best of our abilities. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.